Hey everyone, it's your favorite host, Marcus Norman of the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we have a fantastic guest, a powerhouse speaker, Emmy Award winning, repeat Oprah guest, master coach, has changed the lives of over 600 women, 6,000 women, numerous women across the globe. She has countless episodes, 600 episodes of reality television, authored 4 bestsellers, including her semi-annual work, Fearless Living. And she is changing the paradigm and shifting the focus to how to live our best life and how to live fearlessly in business and in life. It's absolutely possible. It's absolutely something you and I can achieve. Not next week, not next month, today. Help me welcome to the stage this incredible woman, Miss Rhonda Britten, coming to the Gentleman Style Podcast stage.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. I love the name of your podcast, gentlemen. I love it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And one more round of applause, y'all. She looks incredible. Absolutely incredible. Glowing. Absolutely. Miss Britten, I wanted to take the time and thank you for personally being here and sharing your nuggets, your wisdom, your insight, because you have an incredible mind. You could do anything you wanted to do in this world and set your mind to, but you chose to give back. And you speak to others, women, and encourage them to live their best lives without fear. But I have to ask, where did that come from? Where did that stem from? Because there's always a story, I feel.
There is. You're very wise, Marcus. So one of the things that I like to say is our worst days, our most horrific days, our biggest challenging days have the seed of our destiny inside. So think about the worst days of your life and think about, well, wait a minute, the worst days of my life. I bet you can draw a line between the worst days of your life and where you are today, where your success is. And that's true for me. So I think, Marcus, you're referring to the worst day of my life, which was when I was 14 years old. I grew up in a little tiny town in Upper Michigan, 365 inches of snow a year. Yes. And 2 restaurants. Yeah, it was cold. It was cold. 2 restaurants, the Douglas House Buffet Hotel and Big Boy. That's it. That's all we had. McDonald's was an hour and a half away. We didn't have any of that stuff. And today was Father's Day. My parents were recently separated. So my father was coming over to take us out to Sunday brunch, which was a big deal because it's 5 people. We didn't go out to eat because there's 3 kids, 2 adults. That's a lot of money. So again, this big deal. My mother even made me a brand new dress, white cotton dress with a white scarf with black polka dots on it. And I wrapped it around my neck and I thought I was Barbara Streisand, or for the younger people, Taylor Swift or Beyonce, right? And so I'm all dressed up. I go to my mom's room and she's putting on her blue eyeshadow and she's got her put on her rose colored lipstick and then she's buffing up her beehive hairdo. And my dad walks in the back door. He's like, come on, let's go, girls. Let's go. My 2 sisters are fighting out in our one bathroom. And, they're just fighting it out. And so me and my mom start walking towards the back door. And my dad yells again, come on, let's go, girls. And again, my 2 sisters are fighting it out in the one bathroom. And me and my mom walk out the door with my dad and it starts raining. So my dad goes, oh, I got to get my coat from the car. Now this coat was a tan Naugahyde leisure suit coat. And that was in the day hot. I had his polyester pants on, his plaid shirt. He looking good. And so he goes and opens his trunk to grab his coat. But I notice he has not grabbed a coat, but he has grabbed a gun. And he starts yelling at my mother. You made me do this. You made me do this. And he fires. And I start screaming, Dad, what are you doing, Dad? What are you doing? Stop. What are you doing, Dad? And he takes the gun, cocks it, and points it at me. And I believe I am next. And we just stare at each other. He blinks, I blink, he blinks. And my mother, literally with her last breath, sees what's happening and screams out, no, don't. And my father, realizing my mother's still alive, takes that bullet intended for me and shoots her a second time through the abdomen. Bullet went out her back, landed in the car horn, and all I heard was, eh. And then my father cocked the gun again, put the gun to his head and fired. And so in a matter of less than 2 minutes, I was a sole witness of watching my father murder my mother and commit suicide in front of me. Now, I don't know how you would respond, but this is how I responded. It's my fault. It's my fault because I was the only one that physically could have stopped it. I did not grab the gun. I did not kick my father's shins. I did not jump in front of my mother. I just stood there and went, "Stop, Dad, stop." Right? I did nothing heroic. And so that day I basically split into two. The outside Rhonda, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. I'm fine. And the inside Rhonda, filled with guilt and shame and self-hatred and what kind of girl lets her mother die. And that's how I moved forward in my life with that split. By the time I hit college, I found alcohol. That was lovely, numbed the pain. And so soon I became an alcoholic. And then I went on to get 3 DUIs, and I tried to kill myself 3 times. And it was that third suicide attempt that I realized, one, I'm not dying.
Right.
And I am not very good at killing myself. I'm just not skilled at it. So what the heck? So now, mind you, when you try to kill yourself 3 times, they do put you in a psychiatric ward for evaluation. So they did put me there. And after like 3 days, they let me out, deemed me not crazy. And I go back to my little tiny studio apartment, and I'm like, I'm not dying. Well, I have to start over, because after I read my first self-help book when I was 12. And the title of it was "Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am?" which I think is incredibly ironic. And then 13, I was planning to be a minister. So after my parents died, and as I was drinking and DUIing and suiciding, I was still going to therapy, and I was going to workshops, and I was reading books. I was doing everything to help myself, to heal myself, to get through this. But I had a lot of knowledge and I had a lot of tools, but it did not take, everything I did not take away the feeling that there's something wrong with me. There is something wrong with me. And here I am, alive, not dying, and there is something seriously, I think, wrong with me. So I say, I have to start over. I have to start over. What do kindergartners do? What do kindergartners do? And I thought, well, they get a gold star and a calendar. So I went to the store. I literally went to the store, got a calendar and gold stars. I still have this calendar, by the way. And I put a gold star anytime I did anything good. And I'm talking about drinking, didn't get drunk, or anger and didn't break anything. That's the level I was at. And I put a gold star on every single time I made a better, i.e. better choice. And at the end of 30 days, I had a calendar filled with gold stars. And at that moment, I knew that there was hope, that there was something worth saving in me, something worth saving. And that really was the beginning of my recognition that I had more power than I thought, and the surrender that I wasn't dying, which meant there was a reason I was alive. And then I set out to go, okay, if there's a reason why I'm alive, I better go find it, and I better figure this out. So that set me on a path. And then me and God didn't talk for many years, because the first words I heard that day when my father killed my mother and killed himself, literally I'm outside still, the bullets just stopped, the smoke is still happening with the gun. And what went through me is, I heard God say, "I will give you nothing that you can't handle." And I thought, are you kidding me, God? Like, are you joking with me? You give me this and you think I can handle this? So now mind you, at that time I was planning to be a minister. And I just said to God, these lessons are too big. I can't handle your lessons. No, I can't handle this. So I put a line in between me and God. God, you over there, and I'm over here. Now, I never hated God. I never got mad at God, which I know is kind of weird, but I never did. I still loved God. I didn't trust God. Loved him, didn't trust him. And that took me almost 20 years to come back to God.
That's real. That's so real. And so you did what you naturally did with seeing your parents, which was separate the two. Separate happy-go-lucky Rhonda
Yep.
to hurt, deceive, lied to, missing, loss of love, loss of almost identity, loss of identity.
Yeah, but remember, on the outside, I was fine.
Right.
I was fine. I mean, I went to college at a school that was not in my hometown, that was in a different state. So
who'd you grow up with?
I grew up in Upper Michigan. Well, me and my sisters lived together. My sister had just turned 18.
Okay.
None of our relatives came.
To
Nobody.
get you?
Nope. Nobody came. Nobody brought us food. Nobody came. I mean, this is the example. My uncle, a few years ago, I was back home, and one of my uncles says, "Whatever happened to you girls after that?" And I go, "We lived in that house for 2 more years." He goes, "Well, I drove by once," and I'm like, big effort. Woo!
How about knock on the door?
Yeah. How about knock on the door? And, hey, how about more than once? Because you live in the same town, right? Like you live right there.
Right.
But that's the level. Like my family we're Finnish, 100% Finnish. So we don't talk about feelings, and there are no feelings, and you don't feel. And so they literally just cut it off. They didn't want to see us. They didn't, I mean, really, I mean, they literally didn't bring anything. They didn't bring food. They did nothing for us. So I started waitressing, and we got a little bit of Social Security. My little sister, Linda, a couple of years later, she started waitressing. My older sister worked at a grocery store. And we had to pay the mortgage because my mother, she bought that house. And so we had to pay the mortgage. So we paid the mortgage, and we lived in that house for 2 years. Not looking back, I cannot believe we did that. But I'm sure we didn't know what else to do. We didn't have any money, right? We didn't know what to do. So we lived in that house. So that means I walked by where my parents died every single day for the next 2 years. And then it was only right before my senior year that my sister's like, "Let's move." And I'm like, "Yes, please." So then we moved to Minnesota. My sister then quickly moves to Reno. So I get my own apartment when I'm a senior in high school. My little sister gets an apartment when she's a junior in high school.
Maturing.
Again, we're because, at 14, we thought we were adults.
You had to grow up.
Right? Like we're adults. So my sister, we didn't think anything of Linda getting her apartment when she was 16. I got my apartment when I was 16. It was like, yeah, that's what you do. I can't believe people rented to us,
I was just about to ask, like, what landlord sees these young women, mature women, who had to grow up faster than they normally had expeditiously because of life circumstances, and say, "Yeah, here's the keys. Rent's due on the 1st," right?
Well, I don't know how, but it was a different time, so,
Right.
but yeah, we rented places. She lived one place, of course, in a different town than us. So by the time I was a senior in high school, all 3 of us had separated. We were living in 3 different towns. And so I grew up basically on my own, and with the impression, because in my household, you couldn't ask for help. So you couldn't ask a question. So I grew up not asking questions. And so asking for help was beyond my comprehension. Like, why would I do that? I would just be stupid. Of course I can take care of myself. So I went in and lived my life for many years, just basically not admitting that I was afraid, because again, I have no fear. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people don't understand that they are driven by fear. They think it's something else, but they never think it's fear. And so I didn't think I was afraid. I just thought I had bad luck, or, whatever happened, right? I would just blow it off. I would just ignore it. And then of course, when you do that over and over and over again, it eventually builds up. And then that's when I would try to kill myself, right? That's when I couldn't take it anymore. And then I would try to kill myself. So, during those years, if you met me, and you weren't perceptive, which a lot of people in their 20s aren't perceptive, I would have been fine. I was working hard, had a car, lived in my own apartment, so I looked like I had it together per se. Now, I'm sure the men in my life probably discovered very shortly that I wasn't okay. In fact, oh my God, I got to tell you this, Marcus. These poor guys I dated. I've apologized, by the way. I've apologized to all men I've ever dated during this time, because this is what I used to say to guys. And I thought this was a compliment, Marcus. "You are my mother. You are my father. You're my brother. You're my sister. You're everything to me." Can you imagine? Oh, those guys must have been like, ah.
The insurmountable, yeah.
Right. And I'm thinking like, this is how much I love you, right? And they're going,
the
no.
bomb.
Right. But that's how needy I was. That's how,
But But you did it. You did it without help. You did it. You had your own home, your own car, your own job. Even though you were
Yeah.
able to, you dropped the bomb on those gentlemen. Even though you still achieved so much at an early age, at an advanced age, and bringing going back to what you teach now and what you coach to and speak across the
Mhm.
world about is living fearlessly. You
Yeah.
turned tragedy into your superpower. You,
Yes.
you
Yes, I had to crawl on the glass for a while, and the key came when I started recognizing, and by the way, this was a God thing because this definitely wasn't me. When I realized, when I woke up to the fact that I was afraid, just admitting to myself that I had fear was mind blowing. Because again, I didn't have fear. So most of my clients who come to me, most of my students who come to me also are like me. I think many people in the world don't think they have fear. I don't think we walk around talking about fear. I think we walk around talking about our problems. And so whenever I'm speaking to a group, I pull out my book, Fearless Living, and start reading a list of things that are what I call fear responses. These are the things we do when we respond to fear. And for most of us, we think these are our problems or character flaws. So let me just read the list a little bit to you, Marcus. Is that okay?
that's absolutely okay.
Okay. So if you're in a safe place and you can shut your eyes, please do. If you're not, please don't. And I want you to nod your head whether you do these things. If you do any of these things, I want you to nod your head. So let's begin. Do you ever deny yourself? Do
Mm.
you ever isolate? Do you ever pretend everything's okay when it's not? Do you ever hide out? Do you ever whine? Do you ever settle? Do you ever compare? How about manipulate? What about get defensive? What about judge? Do you complain, procrastinate, worry, struggle, control, blame, deflect, wait and call it patience? Do you ever feel bitter, powerless, self centered, dissatisfied, resentful, entitled, guilty, disappointed? Do you ever get caught in perfectionism, people pleasing, imposter syndrome? Do you ever feel indifferent, irresponsible, irritated, like now reading this list, I'm sure, ignored, self pity, annoyed, victimized? So I read this list, Marcus, and I say, how many people need a chiropractor? Because 95% of my audience has 95% of these. And I would dare say most have 100%. So the things that I just read, people think are their problems. Oh, I'm a procrastinator. I'm a people pleaser. I get overwhelmed. I judge too much. Right? We beat ourselves up and put ourselves down. But these are simply fear responses. These are just things we do when what I call the core fear is activated. So when what I call, it's called the wheel of fear. When the wheel of fear is activated, we start doing fear responses in order to deal with that because we don't know any other way to deal with it. So we start dancing. We start feeling overwhelmed and worried so that we can self-perpetuate. We can get distracted. We can beat ourselves up. And so then we put ourselves down. So instead of character flaws, instead of problems, we look at these as simply labeling these fear responses will change your life because now you're putting it in proper context, proper perspective of, oh, I'm not lazy or stupid because I procrastinate. I procrastinate because I'm afraid of something, right? And what I believe is that we all have that core fear, and that's what's running the whole engine. So people think they're afraid of a lot of things. Well, those are fear responses. Really, you're driven by one fear and one fear only.
That's so. Ooh. You're my hero. You are my hero. So you're speaking. She's talking to me, y'all. She's talking to me and the me on the inner me, the young man inside of me, who's not facing that problems. Right.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, men mask their inner feelings with anger. Right.
Yep.
But this is the
Yep.
other side of the coin, where it's dealing with fear. How did you've been on numerous TV shows,
Yeah.
numerous reality TV shows, and how did you maintain authenticity on shows like Starting Over? And how did you play those roles while still dealing, if you were, with dealing with that inner girl? How did you pull
Well,
it off?
but this is the thing. I've incorporated the little my inner girl, right? She's part and
Okay.
parcel of who I am. She's no longer separate from me. And so, my goal. So let me go backwards. I have a wheel of fear, and I also have a wheel of freedom. And my wheel of fear, my core fear is loser. Okay. Now, based on my resume, you probably can guess that I was never seen as a loser. I was president of my class growing up. I went to track for regionals. I was the leading scorer on the basketball team. I sang every solo. Now, mind you, I went to school this big, but at that school, I was a winner, right? So when I uncovered that my wheel of fear is loser, it was like a knife in the heart. Like, what are you talking about? But when I settled with it, when I really thought about it, yeah, that has been running my life. Make sure that nobody thinks I'm a loser, right? I don't want to be a loser. I don't want to be a loser more than anything else. So that's my wheel of fear, the core fear. Now there's 4 parts to the wheel of fear. So I'm just telling you one. Now go back to what your question was, authenticity. Well, it's so funny you use that word, because my wheel of freedom, my essential nature, wheel of fear has 4 components. Wheel of freedom has 4 components. And the first place you go on your wheel of freedom is your, what I call essential nature, the part of you that you hid away and you still hide away today when fear is activated. So what part of me do I put away when fear is activated? Authenticity. That's right. So you nailed it. So when I have fear going on, my number one fear response is my number one proactive behavior, my number one thing to get on my wheel of freedom is to ask myself, Rhonda, if you were authentic right now, what would you say? What would you do? How would you be? And, for most of my life, Marcus, I didn't know who that was. I didn't even know how to be authentic because I had no clue what I believed or how I thought. I was a chameleon. I followed the guy, right? If the guy liked rock and roll, I liked rock and roll. If, he liked motorcycles, I liked motorcycles, right? So I became a chameleon. And so I changed based on, and again, I'm not saying I changed, but I changed who I was or what I liked based on who I was with. And so when I discovered, or God downloaded, by the way, God downloaded this whole thing to me about the wheel of fear and wheel of freedom, and I uncovered that mine was authenticity. That is the thing. When I was 12 years old, Marcus, I was writing down E.E. Cummings' famous quote, which I'm going to butcher right now, but his quote is something like, to be yourself in this world is the hardest fight you'll ever do, right? The hardest fight you'll ever have. And I remember writing that again and again in my little journal. And I have always wanted to be authentic, always. But that was not acceptable in my household. And now think about it. If my secret wheel of fear is loser, if I'm authentic, then you're going to know I'm a loser.
Right.
So I wanted it more than anything, but I didn't even know how to do it. And so that was revolutionary for me. And so when I discovered this, the first exercise I gave myself is I asked myself every day, all day long, do I like this? I'd pick up a glass that I drink out of a mason jar here at home. Do I like this? Do I like this tea? Do I like this straw? Do I like that painting? Do I like the wall color? Do I like yellow? I literally, and I'm not joking, asked myself everything, because my favorite color was green, because my boyfriend in kindergarten's favorite color was green. When I was married, I'm now divorced, but when I was married, my husband's favorite food was Mexican. So Mexican, if anybody asked me what my favorite food was, I would say Mexican. And you know what, Marcus? I believed that. Right. I believed my favorite color was green, and I believed my favorite food was Mexican. Now I like Mexican and I like the color green, but I just took it on as my own. And so when I started asking myself, do I like this? Do I want to do this? What is this? Is this an alignment with me? Those were revolutionary questions. And I did that every day for months. And then I started recognizing, well, you know what? I really don't like that. I'd rather have something different. And again, if you met me at that time, you would probably be shocked because I was, pretty strong and clear, except what you didn't know is what I was strong and clear about was what everybody else told me. And I just took it on.
That's so powerful, and it's so true, and it's so real. How do you think reality TV, do you feel it helped or hindered your mental health? Do you
no,
feel
it was fantastic. So it was fantastic. I was so happy to be the first life coach on TV in the world changing lives, because one, the life coaching industry was at its infancy. And I am the best coach I know. And I wanted to be the first life coach on TV because I wanted to give a role model to the world what good coaching looked like. Because there is a lot of bad coaching. Because don't even get me started on the coaching industry, but because that's my new rant is like the coaching industry. I've got to go clean that sucker up. But
Matt, I haven't had a coach on my show in years because there's so many
because they're
unauthentic ones.
Well, they're not even. They think, but this is the thing. Just like I said, I thought I was being authentic when I was being inauthentic, right? They think they're being authentic. They actually think that. But because they're not in touch with themselves and they've had poor training, they don't know they've had poor training, by the way, because the coaching industry doesn't actually say what the training should be. I'm actually the only coaching school in the world that has supervision, that has tapes listened to, that has mentoring, and that has skills. Most coaching programs don't teach coaching skills. They teach a framework on what to do. They don't actually teach you the skill of coaching itself. So most coaches are poorly educated, and again, don't understand it. So they don't know that, right? They just know that, why don't I have better clients? Because you're not a good enough coach, right? They think it's their client, right? I hear coaches say all the time, oh, I need better clients. No, you need to be a better coach. Right. So I train my coaches. If you can't coach somebody, that's your problem, not theirs, right? Like, you should be able to coach anybody at any time. And again, are some people more coachable? Of course they are. But we're talking about, can you coach them? Can you open the door? Can you, put the toe in? I say to my clients, I say to my coaches when I train them, if a client comes to your session, they answer the phone, they paid you, they want what you have. So your job is to get the door open. Your job is they might be like, right? But they paid and they showed up. Their soul wants you to open that door. Their soul is dying for you to see them. I remember that's how I was. I went to therapy, and my first therapist in college, I think it was after my first suicide attempt, I went to the therapy in college, sat with the therapist, who's in training, and she asked me what was going on. And all I did was brag to her about everything I'm in. And you know what she says to me? Sounds like you're doing great. And you know what was happening inside me the whole time in that session? Is I was like, see me, bust me, see me, see me, see me. Because I couldn't say it.
You wanted to be caught.
I was dying to be caught. I wanted to be caught so bad. I wanted her to break me so bad because I wanted it. But she's like, things sound great now. And I literally left that therapy session feeling so defeated. But because I didn't have the courage, the words, the ability at that point to admit what was going on inside of me. I didn't know how to do that. And by the way, so do so many other people. They just don't know how to do it. Right. So yeah, there you go.
Oh my gosh, this is crucial. This is paramount. The incredible Rhonda Britten. I told y'all, the powerhouse speaker today. She's sharing so many nuggets. She's speaking to me. I'm gonna point the finger at me. This is necessary. Have you ever, because you're a public figure, because you're sought after all over the world, have you ever faced resistance from clients who were skeptical of your methods? And how did you handle that? Because with your experience,
but Marcus, that's coaching. That is coaching. What you just said is coaching. So, when you have a client who's like thirsty and taking everything you do and they're easy as pie, okay, that's awesome. That person is ready. They've probably done a lot of self-help and they're just, A+ student. Great. Yeah. Woo. And they're easy. They're easy, right? All you do is give them homework. They do it. They come back and go, oh my God, I changed, right? Like, awesome. But that's not most clients. Most clients come because they're dying for you to unlock, just like me in therapy. They're dying for you to unlock something, but they don't know how to help you unlock it. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to do it. They are just dying for it to happen. So yes, of course, people are skeptical. Of course, people are doubtful. Of course, that's normal. But and I'll just say it again, that's what coaching is. That is coaching. So of course they're going to be resistant. Of course they're going to be worried. Of course they're going to be scared. That's why they wouldn't need coaching otherwise. So that's the point. So there, in the world of fearless living, there's no such thing as resistance. In the world of fearless living, there is no unwilling client. In the world of fearless living, everyone is willing because, again, remember, they paid you and they showed up for that session.
You did.
Your job is to ask the questions that allow their trust to rise, their safety factor to rise, so that they can minimize that wall, so that they start, kind of coming out, putting their little toe out, right? And when they put their toe out, oh my gosh, I'm singing the choir. Like, I am like, you are amazing. Because to me, I don't care how much of their toe comes out, because once their toe is out, I can pull you out, right? So your little toe comes out, I'll take it, and I'm thrilled. Because I hear other coaches say, they're going too slow, they're not getting it. It's like, your job is to make them get it. Your job is to coach them. Your job is to coach that wall to come down. Your job is to coach them so their wall comes down, so their resistance releases, so that they feel safe with you, they trust you, and then they're open and available for whatever you have. But that's the coach's job. And because coaches have education that does not teach them this, they just think they need better clients.
Yeah, that's true.
Or their clients are lazy. My client just doesn't want. No,
they can't point the finger at themselves, right? They got to point the finger
because they've been told. This is the problem with the coaching industry, Marcus. The school they went to told them that they have everything they need to succeed. The school they went to said, "You're awesome and you're ready." Okay, because the school itself doesn't know. So I had a coach come to me. I was at a cocktail party. Coach came up to me and she goes, "Oh, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes, of course, please do." She goes, "How do you get them to do homework?" And I said, "Well, that's coaching." That's coaching, right? And she goes, I can't get them to do homework. So I had a class. I have a class called the Fearless Conversations Workshop, which I'm changing, by the way, to the coaching code. So soon it'll be changed. So it's Fearless Conversations. The coaching code are basically going to be the same thing, but I'm going to switch it just to make it a little bit more clear. And she came to my 2-day workshop to learn the 8 coaching skills I teach. And she went to a year-long program. Okay. Mm-hmm. She said to me, "I learned more in 2 days than I did for the entire year."
Wow.
And get this, during her training, she didn't even have to have clients. So a lot of the schools don't even make you have clients, because that's the hard part. The hard part is helping somebody coach a client. The hard part is listening to their sessions, to mentor them, to supervise. That's the expensive part too, because you got to pay these people. So instead of doing what's right for the coach, they do it less expensive, less skill-based, and they do like, "Here, I'm going to give you some videos and I'm going to teach you a framework and it's going to be awesome and you have everything you need." So they walk out thinking, "I got everything I need." And so when it's not working out, they don't blame the school. They blame themselves. "I don't know what I'm doing. Why aren't I getting this? What's my problem?" So that coach disempowers themselves, rather than going, "Well, wait a minute, I need more education. I need to go to an advanced coaching program," which comes to me. Right?
So that's the fix. That's the way to fix on fixing all these unlicensed life coaches in the industry, is to get with your program and get with you, and to get the real tools, more tools added to their tool bag, to their tool.
Yeah, that's right. And I am going to be starting soon something I've never done before. It's going to be called the Coaching Code Daily. I am launching it in the next couple months, and I have never shared everything I know about coaching. And it's going to be a paid podcast. It's going to be around 10 minutes a day. And I'm going to teach you one thing to be a better coach every single solitary day. And so then after that, I launch that, I'm going to be doing a tool certification so you can learn all my tools. And I'm going to be doing in the fall a skill certification. So you can actually go through, you can maybe be a coach in a different school, and you can come and get simply skill certified or tool certified. Because one of the things that people say is, oh, I've already been through a program. And I'm like, yeah, you think you have, but you really haven't. But okay, right? So that's why I'm creating the skills and the tool certification, so people can get what they think they need, and then see what we do, and then perhaps get the tools and the skills. And then again, if they want to become a certified fearless living coach, then all that money applies to the big program. But the thing is that the coaching industry itself doesn't understand the value of mentorship and supervision, right? And they tell the lie that you just have to be a little ahead of your client. No, it's not actually true. You're going to get in over your head really quickly if you're just a little way ahead of your client. So it's just the industry itself has, because people don't understand how to coach. They really just don't understand how to do it. And there are some good coaches, natural good coaches, and that have had mentors and they've sought mentors that are really good. But most are not, because again, the industry itself tells them they don't have to.
That's right. I wanna make the connection here, because I feel though that there's a spirituality side of things. So what's your opinion on the role of one's spirituality in overcoming their fear, and how do you guide your coaches? How do you certify and train your coaches to add that to the curriculum as well when they go out and find clients?
Well, I was asked for years, well, is fearless living, is it got God in it? Is it spiritual? Is it fearless living a spiritual book? And I say, you know what? If you believe in God, God is on every page. If you don't believe in God, God's not on any page. So my philosophy, so I have the 8 skills, like I shared.
Yes, sir.
The number one skill is to see people's innocence. Speak, coach as if they are innocent. Well, that's Jesus stuff. That's Jesus stuff. Like, you are going to really have to be honest with yourself, right? Because you think that you're seeing them innocent. You think you're seeing yourself as innocent, but you're not. And it's a real call to a higher level of willingness to become aware of where you mutate yourself, right? And where you blame and shame yourself or others, in order to not open your heart and not have compassion. So I always believe that there is a human reality and a spiritual truth. And with my clients and with everything I teach, I may not say this is a spiritual class. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I go, this is a spiritual class. But sometimes I don't. But regardless, I promise you, I talk about human truth, human reality and spiritual truth, because both of those things must coexist, and they are sometimes paradoxical. So as you evolve, living in the paradox, when you can live in the paradox, when two opposing things can live together, that is a level of mastery.
Yes.
And most people still are in the right, wrong, bad, good, white, black paradigm. And that is no paradigm at all. They're just stuck in the framework, the structure of right or wrong, bad or good. We want to transcend that and go beyond that, right? So I fundamentally, I'm still the minister at heart. If you hear me talk, let's just say I'm probably preaching a little bit, but so it is embedded in everything I do, because it's who I am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask another unique question, because I remember I was stuck in a rut one time, and I was really, really stuck because I was watching a lot of media, a lot of television. And as you know, as a professional in the industry,
Yeah.
the media is very, very negative. Negativity sells. Do you think fear is being weaponized in modern society? And if so, how can individuals like me combat this fear and overcome it?
So one, fear is the greatest salesman in the world. Okay. So everybody uses fear. Every ad uses fear. Every politician uses fear. Fear is embedded in our culture, right? It's embedded. And by the way, it's embedded because it's embedded inside of us, our neurological pathways. We have fear embedded. So it's part of who we are. It's like, if you have a problem in the present moment, our body and brain immediately look to the past to find a solution. Because if I use a solution in the past, then I know fear goes, well, she's going to be okay because she's still alive. She's still alive. So that means she's going to be okay. So as long as she keeps doing what she's doing, she's going to stay alive, because fear only cares about you staying alive. It doesn't care about your happiness. It doesn't care about you following your purpose. It could care less. All it cares about is, are you alive? Are you living and breathing? And if you do, awesome. It's doing a good job. So it wants you to keep repeating the past, right? Now, it might have a different name. It might look differently, but if we look at it, we've all experienced, like, why do I keep doing the same thing over and over again? It's because we are trained biologically to look into the past. So we must actually make a conscious choice to use our frontal lobe, right? To use our executive brain to actually become aware. Well, become aware is really exhausting. To be aware, to live in the present moment, takes a tremendous amount of energy when you first begin. Now, eventually it becomes part of your life and it's not exhausting at all. But in the beginning, to really become aware, like when I did the exercise, like, what do I like? Do I like this mason jar? Do I not like this mason jar? That can feel exhausting. Like you might literally you're going to use more energy because you are more awake and aware. So becoming more awake and aware is critical so that you can see it. And when you see it, you can make better choices. So you're not seduced by it, right? Now, let's just talk about what you said a minute ago, which is, the TV, the news, everything is so negative. I'm going to say, yes, that's correct in many ways. I'm going to put that over here.
Okay.
But when people talk about like the war in Ukraine, right? That's not negative. It's just the war in Ukraine. Right. So, there was robberies here. Well, that's not negative. It's just they're telling you there was a robbery. So many times people say to me, well, that's so negative. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client who was on a session with me. She had just begun, and she was telling me about how her husband comes home from work every day and he's so negative. And I said, well, give me an example. Okay. And this is a radical example, but she goes, oh, he came home and he's just telling me about one of the guys at work and how he had a heart attack and how blah, 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 and work is so hard now because he's not there to help. And I said, wait, what? That's not negative. He's telling you about his day. He's telling you what's going on with him. So when people don't want to hear something, they call it negative. When people are hearing about accidents and wars and things, they call it negative. But that's not negative. It's just literally the same as, oh, there's a war in Ukraine and I drink iced tea. Those are just two things that exist. We interpret it as negative. Now, don't get me wrong. You do that enough, it can weigh on you, right? Like I play a little game with myself, Marcus. And I did it again last night. So last night I was like, okay, I'm watching way too much news. So what I do when I find myself going too far, I delete my YouTube app. I'm like, I deleted it, right? So I deleted it last night. Now I've done this many times over the last year. And I won't have it on for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then I will start watching again and I'll watch it a little bit. And then, like I said, I get to a point and I go, nope. And I turn it off again. Now, you might be saying, well, why do you turn it on at all? Because I'm a very active participant person in our political and sociological society. And I care deeply about what's happening, not only to the United States, but to the world. So I refuse to be ignorant. I refuse to avoid it, right? I just want to make sure. And by the way, to help me, I go to certain news sources. So, because there's other news sources that, it's the war in Ukraine and they're like, and it's right. They make it like they say every horrible thing about it, right?
Larger than life.
Larger than life. Oh, it's the thing, right? You want to find sources that are telling you the facts, right? And can be neutral. So a lot of people call things negative when they don't want to hear it, instead of saying, I just don't want to hear it.
Absolutely. I want to stick right here for one more second, and I want to pick at this. What's one piece of advice? Well, you shared two. What's another piece of advice? I'm trying to get some sauce here for me. This is my development. This is the great thing about this show, right? I get to nitpick my own stuff.
Right. That's right. That's right.
What's another piece of advice in your books that you've personally struggled to follow? Because I would fail that test. And I imagine some of your clients will fail that test. Was like, do I like this tea? Because I could really fall into a rabbit hole with that. I may not like this, and I'm doing it out of habit, out of necessity. Maybe it's my environment. Maybe I'm in
Yeah,
an office space
that's right.
that drinks from this
That's right.
particular Starbucks, or
That's
maybe
right.
my community. This
Yep.
is the thing that we do at church, or
Yep.
this is the thing we do in social circles.
Yep.
Alcoholism, right? Drinking.
Yep.
I
That's right.
That's a common thing. I drink only socially. So that means you only drink when you're out with your friends, or out
Mhm.
with clients, or out
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
insert insert
Mhm.
anything right
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
And so are there things in your books that you teach that you've personally struggled to follow or keep?
Well, everything that I teach stems from either a personal experience or something I've coached with a client. So every single tool I have, created it for myself or a client. So I'm going to gift a free course today, and it's a tool that I created for a client who was telling me how she can't get her salespeople to sell. I can't get my salespeople motivated. I can't get my salespeople inspired. So I created this tool for her, and it ended up being, I created it like 29 years ago, and it's one of my clients and students' favorite tools. So this is the thing. Everything that in here, I quote unquote have moments with, but this is the difference. My company's called Fly, Fearless Living Institute. Well, that FLI also stands for other things. It's frequency, length, and intensity. Frequency, length, and intensity. So here at Fearless Living, I don't sit there and say you either do it or you don't, right? No black and white. Instead, I say the frequency, length, and intensity. So let's say that you beat yourself up, okay?
Mhm.
Which most of us do, get caught up in
Absolutely.
it. So it's like, okay, well, once you start understanding that's fear, that you're not, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just fear. Then what will happen is the frequency in which you beat yourself up will start decreasing. The length that lasts will start decreasing, and the intensity you experience it may decrease. You still may beat yourself up, but what you're looking at is the incremental changes. Oh, I don't do it as long. It's not as bad. And eventually it gets down to 0 or 10%, or only, like, my wheel of fear only activates when I'm in a die situation, right? When I'm in a like, right? I don't
Right.
get activated on a daily basis at all. I don't get activated on a weekly basis. But this is the thing. You want to be activated, because if you're not being activated on a regular basis, i.e., then you're actually not growing.
Mm.
So it's not about whether I'm activated or not. It's all about recovery. It's all about how fast was I aware of it. And sometimes I'm not aware for 2 weeks. Sometimes I'm like, da 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 da, thinking I'm fine. And then all of a sudden it hits me like, oh, crap. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Right. So, what we do is we look at frequency, length, and intensity. We don't look at black and white. We're looking at momentum shifts, awareness, so that you can make, again, different choices.
That's real. Love it. This is incredible. I told y'all, a pure heart of gold. She is here on the Gentleman Style Podcast, spilling the tea and helping us live our most incredible lives today. Miss Britton, I wanted to ask you this question, and personally, if you could change one thing about the way people perceive fear, because you get it all, right? You get people that come to you with numerous facets, but what's the common denominator that you could leave a nugget right here? What's one thing that, if people changes one thing that you see constantly throughout your coaching sessions, what would it be? What would that one piece of advice
That's
be?
a tough one. So I'm going to probably give a couple sentences, but
That's fair.
you know, so first of all, most people blame themselves for their fear.
Okay.
So they beat themselves up and blame themselves, right? I procrastinate. What's my problem? Why can't I get over it? Even when you said you're stuck, and it's like, well, were you stuck, or were you going through a transition? Were
Mm.
you stuck, or were you allowing God to use you and transform you? Because lots of times when God's doing his greatest work on us, we're not taking a lot of action. We're not moving a lot. So that's when many times he's doing his greatest work. And also, when that's happening, you're shifting so much. So I'm going to give you a perfect example. When I'm going through a big transformation, when I'm going through a dark night and a phoenix rising, I think I'm a great prayer. I can pray like nobody's business. But when I'm going through those stages, I can't pray if you paid me $1 million. My prayers turn into, dear God, thank you so much. Yeah, so all right, that would be awesome, right? Instead of like, dear God, right? Right? I can't pray at all. Now, in the beginning, when this first happened to me, the very first time, I was like, oh my God, right? But now I know, oh, I'm going through a transformation. So when we're going through a shift, we aren't living in the old world and we're not living in the new world. And so we are disconnected. We could be confused. We could find ourselves not being able to pray. We could feel a little stuck because we don't know which way to go. Well, of course you don't, because the transformation the Phoenix Rising hasn't happened. So that's where a lot of people put themselves down when they don't recognize that it's actually a spiritual awakening. Now, again, I'm not saying that's always, but I'm saying that's usually. So one of the things that what happens is fear is that they beat themselves up. And then when you beat yourselves up, that is the greatest tool fear uses against you. So if you just simply devote yourself to no longer beating yourself up, just devote yourself to, I am no longer going to indulge that habit. I am not doing that. It is not my fault. Fear exists. Fear is part of our neurobiology. And then you start labeling all the things you blame yourself for, beat yourself up for, as fear responses instead of, why do I procrastinate? Why do I do this? Right? And third, quit asking why. Quit asking why. There is no one reason that you're doing it, except for your wheel of fear. Your wheel of fear is the why. It's not attached to necessarily one thing that happened when you were growing up, or one thing that happened with your parents, or one thing about school. It's not, that's not how it works. It's formed over 6-7 years. And oh, by the way, they now know that fear can be handed down through our DNA. So nothing might have happened to you, and it's in your DNA what your greatest fear is. So what I invite people to do is start asking themselves, are they willing to be wrong about everything to find the right life for them? Are they willing to be wrong about everything to find the right life for you? Are you willing to be wrong about everything? And when you're willing to be wrong about everything, the right life for you will show up. But we're so attached to what we think our life should be, unbeknownst, because we think we're doing the right thing. We think we're like, yeah, I'm doing the great thing, right? We don't even know that we're playing a part. We don't even know that, like, right? Because we're doing the right things and we feel good and we're so proud of ourselves. But then we find out like, oh shit, I just hit a wall. Wait, I'm on the wrong road, right? And then you have to have the humility and the surrender to go, wait a minute, I got to get back on track. I got to get back to my life. So are you willing to be wrong about everything to find the right life for you?
The Gentleman Style mascot is rooting for that. That's so real. That's so necessary. That's so powerful. Miss Britten, one of the things that one of the many philosophies that I live my life by now today is that, what do I want to be remembered for? What do I, if I died today, what would they write on my headstone? Because I've experienced nothing compared to what you've experienced. Oh my gosh. But I'm not, it's not a pissing contest at all. But one of the things I live my life now is, if I die today, what would they write about me? What would they say about me?
Yes.
And so, what do you want to be remembered for in the fields of life coaching and personal development? What do you want to be? What do you want others to say about you when someday, many, many years from now, what do you want to be remembered for?
A whole bunch of things go through my mind, but really the most important thing to me, if I cut through all of that, is Rhonda was a beam of light and love. I felt so loved in her presence. That's what I want to be known for.
Absolutely. And that young 14-year-old girl who just experienced a traumatic event, what would you want to say to her watching this right now?
Oh, my 14-year-old, I'm so grateful for her. I'm grateful for my 16-year-old and my 18-year-old and my 22 drunk-year-old. I'm thankful for every single one of them because they got me here. So I am just so proud of them. I'm so proud of them. And they are going to be okay. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just fear. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just fear. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just fear.
Miss Rhonda, the train has left the station. You are a force to be reckoned with, and the train is gone. But it's not too late for others to hop on board. How can people connect with you? How can people find you? How can people support and get on the Rhonda train?
fearlessliving.org, fearlessliving.org/risk, I'm going to give you a free gift, Stretch, Risk, and Die course. It's going to support you in understanding how to go for your dream and how to go for your goal. If you do feel that stuckness, if you feel like, why am I not moving forward? This tool is going to help you do that. So it's called Stretch, Risk, or Die. Go to fearlessliving.org/risk, RISK. You're going to put your name and email in. It's going to let you into the platform. And it's 3 15-minute videos. You got a workbook. You got a templates for career, for health, for love, for abundance. Like, you have all the templates you need to start doing the exercise right today. And then on the third video, I actually go through the whole Wheel of Fear because we didn't get to do that today. So you're going to see the Wheel of Fear in action. So make sure you get to that third video. And I highly encourage you to do it within the next 24 hours, or you and I both know you won't do it. So fearlessliving.org/risk, RISK. And all social media is Rhonda Britten.
Love it, love it, love it. Connect, y'all. This is epic. She is epic. And Miss Rhonda, I want to say this to you publicly. You already know this, but I want to say this to you publicly. Don't ever quit. We need you. We need you.
Thank you. That's very gracious. I am grateful for that. Thank you.
Grateful for you. Oh my gosh. This has been a jam-packed episode. Special guest. Another round of applause for my special guest, Miss Rhonda Britten. The lovely, the incredible, super fragilistic espialidocious Miss Rhonda Britten here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. We got to let her go, y'all. She has many more clients to see, many more lives to change, and many more people to help. And so, like we end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman, and the incredible Miss Rhonda Britten signing off. Love you guys.